A good example of the process of developing a brand pyramid could be looking at the original positioning of Apple back in the days of the introduction of the Macintosh and the early BBDO campaigns for the power to be your best. If you start at the bottom with product features, at the most basic level, the key product features of Macintosh were that it had a graphic user interface and a more consistent user experience. Apple people could go on at length about that in almost metaphysical terms, but they were real differentiating product features, especially back in the mid-1980s. You could say the functional benefit of that is the product is easier to use, obviously, and the emotional reward then might be that it's makes you feel productive and you're not wasting your time. And you say, well, what's the user value that goes with that? Well, most of us have a desire to feel productive, to feel that we aren't wasting our time. That's consistent. It hangs together, but somehow it's not terribly exciting. But if you go back and look at the lower levels, you can say, let's sort of do some laddering here. What if you push easier to use down and call that a product feature? That's fair, and say that productivity, not wasting time, that's the functional benefit, because it really is pretty functional, and say, okay, what does that yield in terms of an emotional reward? Well, if I'm productive, if I'm not wasting time, if the computer sort of responds to my every command and does exactly what I want without a lot of hassles, that could generate a feeling of competence, of sort of mastery, sort of like driving a fine car or something like that. That's getting interesting. And certainly the user values that tie into a feeling of competence and mastery are more exciting than just the desire not to waste time. In fact, if you sort of push that and explore it a little bit, you came across an interesting comment that somebody once made in a focus group. A Mac user said, when I'm using the Mac, it's sort of like what I imagine a professional musician feels, that all the hassles and the difficulties of playing the instrument completely disappear, and he's able to communicate directly with the music. And I sort of feel that way about my work, that the hassles and difficulties of using a computer completely evaporate, and I'm totally in touch with my work, and that makes me feel empowered, it makes me feel creative. Oh, well, let's go back and look at our pyramid that way. Okay, ease of use is the product feature. What if we said that the functional benefit of that is that the computer itself becomes transparent, that the computer ceases to be a barrier between you and what you're trying to do? And the ultimate emotional reward of that, in a sense, could be that it liberates your inner creativity. It allows you to operate at sort of peak performance because you're not dragged down or slowed down by the computer. And the user value that ties into that gets really exciting because we certainly all have a strong inner desire to feel creative. Now that's a powerful set of values, and a brand personality that fits with that is sort of a creative, accessible, but empowering force, which has always sort of been the personality of the Apple brand.